Captain Ryland Hart was mid-sentence about respecting cultural boundaries when the screaming started. And that's why we always ask before entering personal space in human territories. Contact! Perimeter breach. Ryland's hand went to her sidearm before her brain caught up. Beside her, Counselor Thexval, all 7 feet of crystalline Vryn dignity, made a sound like wind chimes having a panic attack. They were supposed to be on a peaceful tour of the human colony, showing the Galactic Council that humans could play nice with neighbors. Very boring. Very safe. Very not this. The forest exploded with movement. 12 figures emerged from the tree line, all scales and armor and weapons that hummed with lethal intent. Kraith. Reptilian, professional, and currently very focused on something in the clearing ahead. Ryland's stomach dropped. The kindergarten field trip. 23 human children, ages 5 to 7, scattered across the meadow with their teacher, Ms. Okoye. They'd been studying local butterflies, learning about ecosystems, eating sandwiches cut into triangles because apparently that's what made them taste better. Now they were surrounded by an alien warband. Oh, hell no. Ryland breathed. The Kraith war leader, massive, scarred, with eyes that had seen 100 battles, stepped forward. His armor clinked with each deliberate step. Skardesh, according to the tactical translator in Ryland's ear. Humans, his voice was gravel and threat. Surrender the young hunters. This is your only warning. Ryland blinked. I'm sorry, what? We have tracked this apex predator nest for 3 rotations, Skardesh continued, gesturing to the children with his plasma rifle. We will not allow them to mature into the galaxy's greatest threat. Surrender them now, or we take them by force. Ryland looked at the threat. Little Mia was crying because she'd dropped her sandwich. Tommy was showing another kid the caterpillar he'd found. Ms. Okoye was trying to do a head count while looking increasingly panicked. You think... Ryland started, then stopped. You think they're predators? Do not insult our intelligence. Skardesh's scales rippled with irritation. We have evidence. Observe. He pointed. A child was holding a knife. Small, serrated, gleaming in the sun. They are armed, Skardesh declared. Even the youngest carries blades. That's a butter knife, Ryland said flatly. For spreading jelly. They hunt. He gestured to 2 kids with nets, stalking through the grass. Tracking prey with primitive tools. They're catching butterflies for a school project. They consume their kills. A girl was literally eating a sandwich. Fresh conquest, devoured without remorse. Ryland pinched the bridge of her nose. That's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you absolute... Captain. Thexval's voice was barely a whisper. The Kraith are... They are serious. Galactic law permits preemptive strikes against predator species before maturation. If they classify human young as military threats. These are children, Ryland snapped. To them, Thexval's crystalline form was literally shaking. They are warriors in training. Skardesh was still cataloging evidence like a prosecutor from hell. Observe their tactical formations. He pointed to kids playing tag, chasing each other in chaotic patterns. Advanced evasion training. They're playing, Ryland protested. Note their combat exercises. Kids were throwing a ball back and forth, dodging and catching. Projectile defense drills. It's dodgeball. And their warrior rituals. A group was singing something about a bus going round and round. Cadence to synchronize pack behavior. Ms. Okoye finally found her voice. Sir, these are educational games. Standard human childhood development. The translation software chirped helpfully. Educational combat simulations. Standard human warrior development protocols. Oh, come on, Ryland muttered. Skardesh's rifle powered up. We have jurisdiction under Treaty 64 Theta. These predator young must be neutralized before... Before what? Ryland's voice dropped to something cold and sharp. Before they learn their ABCS? Before they lose their first tooth? Before they figure out how to tie their own shoes? Before they become like you, Skardesh snarled. We have seen the reports, human. Your species' capacity for violence. Your wars. Your weapons. Every human child is a future soldier in your predator army. Thexval made another wind chime noise. Captain, perhaps we should evacuate. No. Ryland stepped forward. 1 step, 2. Placing herself directly between the Kraith warband and the children. Ms. Okoye, bless her, understood immediately. She started quietly moving kids behind her, using her body as a shield. The children, confused but trained in emergency drills, complied. Captain Hart, Skardesh's voice carried a note of warning. You cannot stop this. Galactic law. Can go to hell, Ryland finished. You want them? You go through me first. Skardesh actually laughed. Deep, rumbling, genuinely amused. 1 human, against 12 Kraith warriors, elite soldiers with decades of combat experience. He spread his arms. You cannot be serious. Ryland's hand moved to the blade at her hip. Standard issue, 20 centimeters of folded steel, designed for utility more than combat. It would have to do. You're absolutely right, she said, voice steady. This is going to suck. She drew the blade. Mostly for you. Her fingers found the distress beacon on her collar. 1 press. Silent. Help was coming. 15 minutes away. Might as well be 15 years. The Kraith advanced. Slow, professional, spreading into a tactical formation that would have made any military instructor proud. They'd done this before. Surrounded prey, closed the net, made the kill. Ryland did the math. 12 armored warriors with plasma rifles and close combat training. 23 screaming kids behind her. 1 very terrified teacher, and exactly 0 backup. The odds were bad. She dropped into a combat stance anyway. Last chance, human, Skardesh called. Stand aside. Counteroffer, Ryland replied. You leave. Now, and I won't embarrass you in front of your subordinates. That got his attention. His scales flushed darker, Kraith equivalent of a flush of anger. Arrogant prey, he hissed. Warriors, take her, they charged. Ryland met them halfway. The first Kraith came in high, rifle raised like a club. Textbook assault pattern. Predictable. Ryland went low, blade flashing. Knotted armor. At the joint where leg met hip. Weak point. The kind you learned about surviving. Not in boot camp. The warrior went down with a shriek. 3 seconds, start to finish. The second one was smarter, coming in from her blind side. Would have worked too, except Ryland had grown up in a city where you learn to watch your back, or you learn to bleed. She spun, used the falling first warrior as a pivot point, and caught the second across the throat with her elbow. Not lethal, the armor protected vitals, but hard enough to crush his windpipe, send him gasping to his knees. Before the first warrior hit the ground, the second was down too. 6 seconds total. The remaining 10 Kraith froze. Behind Ryland, someone, she thought it was Tommy, said in a carrying voice. Wow. Captain Hart is really good at fighting. Another kid. Probably Mia. My mom says violence isn't the answer. Ms. Okoye strained. Sometimes, sweetie, violence is the question. And the answer is yes. That wasn't in our lesson plan, a small voice observed. Impromptu educational demonstration, Ms. Okoye replied, voice shaking. Everyone stay behind me. And someone pass me a juice box. I'm going to need it. Ryland would have laughed if she wasn't busy not dying. Skardesh stared at his fallen warriors, then at Ryland, then at the blade in her hand, which wasn't even breathing hard. Impossible, he whispered. You're a diplomat, not a soldier. Ryland smiled. It wasn't friendly. On Earth, she said, we're all soldiers. We just have better day jobs. She raised her blade. Who's next? Counselor Thexval watched in crystalline horror as the peaceful human captain, the one who'd spent 3 hours explaining cultural sensitivity and the importance of nonviolent conflict resolution, became something else entirely. A whirlwind of calculated violence. A predator who'd been politely pretending to be prey. Behind her, human children calmly continued eating juice boxes, discussing the fight like it was a nature documentary. And Thexval realized with terrifying clarity, the Kraith hadn't stumbled onto a predator nest. They'd stumbled into a predator colony, and they'd just threatened the young. The third Kraith warrior came at Ryland with more caution. Smart. Professional. Keeping distance, using his reach advantage. Ryland didn't give him the chance to use it. She grabbed a handful of dirt from the meadow and threw it straight into his face. The warrior recoiled, clawing at his eyes, and Ryland's blade found the gap between his chest plate and shoulder guard. He went down howling. "That's cheating!" one of the Kraith shouted. "That's winning," Ryland corrected, already moving. The fourth warrior thought he had her. Came in from behind while she was distracted. Would have worked too, except Ryland had grown up in a city where predators walked on two legs and wore human faces. You learned to sense threats you couldn't see, or you didn't grow up at all. She dropped, rolled, and came up inside his guard. Her blade? Useless against his armor at this angle. Her knee? That worked just fine against his kneecap. The joint bent wrong. He collapsed with a scream that made the remaining 8 warriors flinch. Ryland straightened, breathing hard now. She could feel the adrenaline singing through her system, that old familiar friend from her less diplomatic days. This was going to hurt tomorrow. Her shoulder was already complaining. She'd need ice, maybe a heating pad, definitely a very large drink. But tomorrow was tomorrow. Today, she had kids to protect. Skardesh was staring at her like she'd grown a second head. What kind of combat training produces this? The kind where your planet actively tries to kill you, Ryland replied. Every single day. She wasn't trained to fight like a soldier. Soldiers fought to win battles. She was trained to fight like prey that got tired of running. Like something cornered that learned to bare its teeth. Like every human who'd ever survived Earth's casual attempts at murder and came out the other side saying, "Is that all you've got?" Efficient, brutal, dirty, alive. "You don't fight with honor," Skardesh accused. "Honor doesn't protect children," Ryland shot back. "Results do." The remaining 8. Kraith looked at each other, at their fallen comrades, at the bleeding, panting human who shouldn't have been able to do any of this. They looked nervous. Good. The Kraith warrior who broke formation didn't go for Ryland. He went for the kids. Smart, tactically. Take a hostage, force the human to surrender. Standard protocol when dealing with pack species that valued their young. He grabbed for the nearest child, Tommy, who was still holding his caterpillar. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies for the next decade. Tommy, 6 years old, looked at the massive armored alien grabbing him. Did not scream, did not freeze. Bit down on the warrior's hand. Hard. The Kraith had scales, tough ones, meant to deflect blades. Tommy's baby teeth apparently didn't care about tactical assessments. They found the soft webbing between scales and drew blood. The warrior shrieked, jerking back, straight into Mia's line of fire. The little girl had pulled something from Miss Okoye's emergency backpack. Spray bottle, bright orange. The kind of thing you'd use for, say, marking trees during nature walks. "Bug spray," Mia announced helpfully, and squeezed the trigger. Pepper spray hit the Kraith's eyes like liquid fire. He went down, screaming, clawing at his face, temporarily blinded, completely out of the fight. Ms. Okoye looked at Ryland with an expression somewhere between apologetic and defiant. "Sorry, I taught them stranger danger maybe too well." "Don't apologize," Ryland said, watching the Kraith writhe. That was beautiful. The other children, seeing their friends successfully defend themselves, decided to join in. Rocks started flying. Not random throwing. Precise. Accurate. The kind of aim that came from countless hours of baseball practice, of learning to hit targets, of human children being competitive little monsters who turned everything into a game. One rock caught a Kraith in the throat, right above his armor line. Another hit a knee joint. A third, thrown by a kid who couldn't have been older than 5, somehow found the power coupling on a plasma rifle. It sparked, died. The warrior stared at his useless weapon in disbelief. "Who taught them that?" Skardesh roared. "Little League," Miss Okoye said weakly. "And physics. We had a unit on trajectory and force." "You weaponized education?" "We call it STEM learning," Miss Okoye replied. Science, technology, engineering, and math. Another rock flew. This one had better aim than some military snipers. Skardesh was having what could only be described as an existential crisis. His scales had gone pale, a Kraith stress response. The young ones were fighting back. The prey young were fighting back. This wasn't supposed to happen. Young prey species cowered. They cried. They froze in terror. They didn't bite. They didn't spray chemical weapons. They didn't form improvised artillery units with calculated trajectories. What kind of species were these humans? The sound of engines cut through the chaos. Not military. Not the cavalry Ryland had been expecting in. She checked her internal clock. Still 6 minutes. Civilian vehicles. Family transports. The kind of beat-up ground cars that screamed suburban parent mobile. They skidded to stops in a cloud of dust, doors flying open before they'd fully stopped. Parents. 30 of them. Maybe more. All running toward the meadow. They'd gotten the emergency alerts about the field trip location. Drop everything, find your kids, move now. What they found was their children surrounded by alien warriors, their teacher looking terrified, and Captain Hart bleeding from 6 places while fighting for her life. What they carried was improvised. A mother, Ryland recognized her as Mia's mom, had a baseball bat. Still had the price tag on it. Probably grabbed it from the garage mid-emergency. A father wielded a pipe wrench like a warhammer. A grandmother, had to be at least 70, held a rolling pin and looked ready to bake someone into a pie. Someone had a garden shovel. Another, a tire iron. One person was holding what appeared to be a blender, still plugged into nothing, like they'd literally grabbed the first heavy object they could find. They saw their children in danger. The universe's most dangerous phrase, protective parent mode, activated. "Nobody threatens my kid," the mom with the baseball bat announced. Her voice carried across the meadow like a war cry. Nobody. The Kraith war band suddenly found themselves surrounded. Warriors who'd faced down pirates, mercenaries, and hostile alien species now faced something infinitely more terrifying. Humans protecting their young. The parents didn't wait for explanations, didn't ask questions, didn't hesitate. They moved. Skardesh tried to order a tactical retreat. "Fall back! Defensive positions." A rolling pin caught him in the side of the head. The grandmother wielding it looked mildly annoyed, like she'd been interrupted during her baking and someone was going to pay. "You made my grandson cry," she said flatly. That was a mistake. A Kraith raised his rifle. A father with a tire iron was faster, knocking the weapon aside before it could fire. Then introduced the alien to the concept of blunt force trauma via automotive tool. Another warrior tried to run. A mother clotheslined him with a garden shovel. He hit the ground hard enough to bounce. "That's for scaring my daughter," she yelled. Ryland, still in the middle of the chaos, had to actively stop humans from killing the Kraith. "Stand down. We need them alive. Stand down." The parents reluctantly stopped. Reluctantly being the operative word. They looked disappointed they couldn't continue the impromptu violence. The Kraith, those still conscious, immediately surrendered. All of them, at once. "We yield!" Skardesh shouted, hands up, weapons on the ground. "We yield! Please, please, call off your pack!" "Our what?" someone's mom demanded. "He means us," the grandmother with the rolling pin translated. "Stupid reptile thinks we're a military unit." "We're the PTA," another parent corrected. "Way scarier." Thexval, throughout all of this, had been frozen in crystalline horror. Now he found his voice, thin and reedy. "They're civilians." "These are civilians." "Angry civilians," Ryland corrected, breathing hard. She was bleeding from a cut above her eye, another on her arm. Tomorrow was going to suck. With children to protect. But... Thexval couldn't seem to form complete thoughts. "That one has a blender." "My son is in danger," the blender-wielding parent said reasonably. "I grabbed what was available." Skardesh, on his knees with his hands up, stared at the humans surrounding him, at the parents with their improvised weapons, at the children who'd fought back with rocks and pepper spray and teeth, at Ryland, standing in the center of it all, bloodied but unbowed. "We made a mistake," he whispered. We didn't stumble on a predator nest. No, Ryland agreed. You didn't. We stumbled on a predator colony. His voice was hollow. And we threatened the young. Yep, said the grandmother with the rolling pin. You sure did. That, Ryland added, checking her watch, 4 minutes until actual security arrived, was a really stupid thing to do. Around them, human parents formed a protective circle around their children. Not attacking now, just present, watchful, ready. The message was clear. Try again, please. Give us an excuse. Skardesh, war leader of the Kraith, veteran of 100 battles, looked into the eyes of a species that protected its young with improvised weapons and civilized fury, and understood truly what it meant to be prey. Somewhere in the distance, sirens finally wailed. Colonial security, arriving to find the situation already resolved, by angry parents with kitchen utensils. The galaxy, Skardesh realized with dawning horror, had severely underestimated humans. They hadn't feared the warriors. They should have feared the families. Colonial security arrived to find the situation already over. 12 Kraith warriors, elite soldiers supposedly, on the ground. Some unconscious, some whimpering, all disarmed. 30 human parents standing over them with improvised weapons, looking vaguely disappointed they couldn't continue the violence. 23 children eating snacks and discussing the fight like it was a school assembly. And one very bloody, very tired human captain trying to explain why nobody was dead yet. Need them alive for questioning, Ryland was saying, holding back a father with a pipe wrench who looked ready to introduce a Kraith to percussive maintenance. Legal reasons, due process, all that fun stuff. They threatened my kid, the father growled. I know, and we'll file charges, official ones, through proper channels. Ryland's diplomatic training was kicking back in, despite the adrenaline crash trying to pull her under. But we can't do that if they're paced. The father reluctantly lowered his weapon. Fine. But if legal doesn't work, I'm coming back with a bigger wrench. Fair, Ryland agreed. Security Chief Torres, a grizzled human veteran who'd seen some things but never this, surveyed the scene with the expression of a man reconsidering his career choices. Captain Hart. Report Kraith warband attempted to neutralize human children based on predator species protocols, Ryland said, falling into military brevity. I intervened. They escalated. Parents arrived. Situation resolved. You took on 12 Kraith warriors. Yep. With a utility blade. Wasn't my first choice, but yes. And the parents. Torres looked at the rolling pin grandmother, who smiled sweetly. Armed themselves with kitchen equipment. Grabbed what was available, sir. Torres pinched the bridge of his nose. This is going to be so much paperwork. The interrogation room was designed for comfort. Soft lighting. Adjustable seating. Calming colors. It wasn't helping. Counselor Thexval sat at the table, his crystalline form refracting light in agitated patterns. Across from him, Skardesh, restrained but conscious, and Ryland, bandaged but functional. I need, Thexval said carefully, to understand exactly what happened. From both perspectives. We were eliminating a threat, Skardesh said immediately. Preemptive strike against predator young before they could mature into... They were on a field trip, Ryland interrupted. Warriors capable of galactic destruction, Skardesh finished. We had evidence. Extensive evidence. Oh, this should be good, Ryland muttered. Let's hear it. Skardesh pulled up a holographic display, footage his team had gathered. Surveillance of human children over several days. Observe, he began, like a prosecutor presenting a case. Human young are issued bladed weapons from age 5. The footage showed a child at breakfast, using a butter knife on toast. That's for spreading butter, Ryland said. They practice advanced hunting techniques. Kids playing tag, running and dodging with surprising coordination. That's TAG, a game. They stalk and capture prey. Children with butterfly nets, carefully approaching insects. Catching butterflies for science class. They consume their conquered kills without remorse. A picnic scene. Kids eating sandwiches. Ryland stared at him. Those are peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They train in pack tactics. Footage of a classroom, children working together on a project. Group projects, teamwork, basic education. They study tracking and wilderness survival. Kids on a nature walk, following a trail. Nature walk, learning about ecosystems. Thexval's light patterns were strobing now. War leader Skardesh, are you telling me you classified educational activities as military training? It is military training, Skardesh insisted. How else do you explain their capabilities? The human captain defeated 4 of my warriors in seconds. The young ones fought back with chemical weapons and projectiles. The adults mobilized like a coordinated strike force. Because you threatened our kids, Ryland said, voice flat. What did you expect? Surrender. Fear. Normal prey behavior. Skardesh's scales were flushed dark with agitation. Not this. Not 6-year-olds with teeth and spray bottles. Tommy bit you, huh? Ryland couldn't quite hide her smile. Good for him. This is not normal, Skardesh insisted. For humans it is, Ryland replied. Let me explain human childhood since you clearly don't get it. She pulled up her own display. Earth. Rotating peacefully in space, looking deceptively nice. Humans are born on a Class 12 death world, she began. Everything there wants to kill us. The weather, the wildlife, the plants, the microorganisms. Sometimes the ground just decides to shake or open up or explode. Thexval made a strangled sound. So we teach our children to survive. Early. We give them small knives, butter knives, because they need to. Learn tool use and coordination. We teach them games like tag and hide and seek because those games, they're practice for predator evasion. We send them on nature walks to learn about their environment, about threats, about how to stay alive. You let your young practice combat without supervision? Thexval's voice was rising. You let them wander hostile environments? You teach them to fight from infancy? Ms. Okoye, brought in as a witness, spoke up. It's called recess. Recess. Free time. Unsupervised play. It's how they learn social skills, physical coordination, and yes, how to handle conflict. You weaponize playtime? We teach children to be resilient, Ms. Okoye corrected. Because Earth doesn't care about your feelings. It'll kill you if you're not careful. So we prepare them. But, Thexval was struggling. You make it sound so casual. It is casual, Ryland said. For us. We don't think of it as military training because it's not. It's just childhood. Learning to survive, to adapt, to protect yourself and others. Every human child is a soldier in training, Skardesh whispered. Every human child is a survivor in training, Ryland corrected. There's a difference. Galactic intelligence arrived 3 hours later. Agent Quillix, neither male nor female by human understanding, just a collection of tentacles in a suit, reviewed the footage with increasing alarm. The fight, the children, the parents, all of it. Let me understand, Quillix said, their translator rendering their speech in carefully neutral tones. These were civilians, untrained in military combat, and they defeated an elite Kraith warband. Yes, Ryland confirmed. The adult female, you, took down 4 warriors in under a minute. Closer to 40 seconds, but yes. The young ones, children, fought back with improvised weapons. Tommy's got a good bite, Ryland said proudly. And Mia's got aim. And the parents mobilized in... Quillix checked the timeline. 4 minutes, armed with household items. Emergency alerts about field trip locations, Ms. Okoye explained. Standard protocol. Parents always know where their kids are. And they came prepared to fight. Of course, a parent, Mia's mother, spoke up from the observation area. Someone threatened our children. What did you expect? Quillix's tentacles writhed. This is not normal behavior. Most species would call authorities, wait for professionals. We are the authorities, the pipe wrench father said. When it comes to our kids. Quillix turned to Ryland. Captain Hart, you claimed in your preliminary report that all humans are trained for combat. Please explain. Ryland stood, wincing as her bruised ribs protested. We're not trained. Not like soldiers. We're adapted. Every human who makes it to adulthood has survived odds that would kill most galactic species. We've learned to fight, not in boot camp, but in playgrounds, in schools, in the daily struggle of living, on a planet that actively tries to murder us. But these were children. Children who've already survived 6 years on Earth, Ryland interrupted. They've had colds that would hospitalize most aliens. They've fallen from heights that would kill fragile species. They've learned to watch for dangers that most of the galaxy has never encountered. And they've learned that sometimes you fight back. This is insane, Quillix breathed. This is humanity, Ryland corrected. Quillix pulled up a holographic form, human threat assessment, live update. Began typing. Civilian population demonstrates combat capabilities equivalent to trained military personnel. Children show tactical awareness and willingness to engage threats. Parental protective instincts result in immediate, overwhelming response to danger. Standard protocols insufficient. Quillix paused. Looked at Ryland. If this is what your civilians can do, what can your actual soldiers do? Ryland smiled. Didn't answer. Didn't need to. Far away, on Earth, in a military command center, a room full of soldiers watched the footage. Watched Captain Ryland Hart, diplomat, not warrior, take down elite alien soldiers. Watched human children fight back with baby teeth and pepper spray. Watched parents with rolling pins and wrenches defend their young. A general, grizzled, scarred, seen 100 battles, watched the Quillix's question echo on the screen. What can your actual soldiers do? Smiled, turned to her staff. Make sure that footage stays classified, she ordered. Let them wonder. Because the truth? The truth was that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their military. It was that every human, from childhood to elderly, from civilian to soldier, carried the same fundamental core. Survive. Adapt, protect. And when you threatened what they loved, they became something the galaxy had never seen before. Not soldiers, not warriors, something worse. Humans who had a reason to fight. On the screen, Quillix updated the threat assessment one final time. Recommendation: do not engage human civilians. Do not threaten human young. Do not assume human non-combatants are non-threats. They are all threats. They are all dangerous. Status: extreme caution. The general smiled wider. Good, she murmured. Let them be afraid. Because humanity had spent millennia being the prey, the hunted, the threatened. It was about time the galaxy learned what happened when the prey evolved teeth and claws and the absolute unwillingness to go quietly into the night. The Galactic Council chamber had hosted many emergency sessions. None quite like this. The Kraith Confederation demands sanctions against humanity for excessive use of force, the Kraith ambassador declared. Their response was disproportionate. You attacked our children, Minister Kowalski said quietly. The human ambassador, stocky, gray-haired, calm from years of dealing with the PTA, stood at the central podium. Could you repeat that? The Kraith ambassador challenged. You attacked our children. Kowalski's voice was ice. Would you like smaller words? He activated the holographic display. Footage from the colony. Skardesh's war band surrounding 23 human children eating lunch. The council chamber went silent. You surrounded kindergartners with military weapons, Kowalski continued. You declared them threats. You prepared to execute them. They were predator young. They were 6 years old, Kowalski snapped, eating sandwiches, learning about butterflies, and you wanted to kill them because you were afraid. The vote was unanimous. Kraith Confederation. Pay reparations. Formal apology. Sanctions for attempting to harm non-combatants. The message was clear. Touch human kids. Face consequences. New protocols rolled out within a week. Directive 891. Human young are non-combatants regardless of capabilities. Military action prohibited. Directive 892. Human parental protective instinct, classified as defensive capability, equivalent to WMD. Triggering it equals extreme stupidity. Directive 893. Approaching human children without permission equals act of war. Ryland got promoted. Special advisor on human defensive capabilities. Mostly explaining that humans were friendly unless provoked. It's like a guard dog, she told a Plixie delegation. Friendly, loyal, great with kids. Break into the house? Bad time. In custody, Skardesh was still processing. But the training, the hunting. A guard spoke up. That's just childhood. We do that for fun. Fun? Skardesh's voice cracked. You weaponize your young for fun? We teach them to survive. They enjoy it. The guard shrugged. Kids are weird. Skardesh started laughing. Couldn't stop. Diagnosis: acute cultural shock syndrome. Prognosis: recovery, but would flinch at human children forever. Back at the colony, Miss Okoye taught about different alien species. Are we the scary ones? A child asked. We're only scary to people who try to hurt us, Ms. Okoye said. That's not a bad thing. The children accepted this and returned to playing. Across the galaxy, species updated everything. Military databases, human civilians combat capable, never threaten their young. Galactic survival guide, human young, do not approach, do not threaten, parents will end you. Counselor Thexval wrote his final report, hands shaking. Recommendation: maintain peaceful relations with humans at all costs. They don't have soldiers and civilians. They have civilians who could be soldiers. Every human is a potential warrior. Every human child is a future threat. Every human parent is a present danger. Final line: we worried about humanity becoming apex predators. We were wrong. They already were. They've just been polite about it. Ryland tucked her daughter into bed. Mommy, did you really fight monsters today? Just some confused aliens, sweetie. Did you win? Ryland smiled. Always do, baby. Always do. She stood at the window. Outside, the colony was peaceful. Safe. Tomorrow would bring meetings, reports, nervous aliens. But tonight, her daughter slept safely. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Across the stars, species were learning a human phrase. Mama Bear. They understood now. They would never forget.